It's day 8 of a 10-day hunt. You're walking out, headed down a ridge with an empty pack, going over the week in your head. You found elk, you heard bulls, you made setups, you called, and you're empty handed. This happens to a lot of elk hunters, and almost all of them blame the elk, the unit, the weather, or the pressure. Very few of them look at the actual list of decisions they made and ask, where did I cost myself a bull? Where did I mess up? Because that's almost always where the answer is, right? In this video, I'm going to give you the 10 mistakes that consistently send elk hunters home empty-handed and exactly what you can do differently. Elk hunting has a brutal success rate on public land. Most elk hunters go home without a bull, and most of them made the same mistakes, the same predictable, fixable errors that experienced guides watch play out every single season. The frustrating part is that none of these mistakes require more elk or better country to fix. They require better decisions, better preparation, a different approach to wind, to calling, to scouting, to shot selection. Every mistake on this list is correctable. Every one of them is costing hunters bulls this season. I've been watching these happen for over 34 years. Here are all 10 and the fix for each one. Now, if you're not familiar with who I am, I've been hunting and guiding Western big game for over 34 years across multiple states in every kind of terrain and pressure you can find on public land. I've also spent more than 30 years as a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach, and many of my early years as an elite athlete competing at a very high level. That combination of hunting experience and coaching background and athletic suffering matters here because identifying mistakes, understanding why they happen, and then building systems to fix them is exactly what coaches do. I've watched these 10 mistakes play out in real time more times than I can count, so let's fix them right now. Mistake number 1 is getting beat by the wind. This is the number one reason mature bulls disappear without a trace, and it's not even close. Wind management is not just about knowing which direction the wind is blowing, it's about understanding thermals, the vertical movement of air driven by temperature change, heat specifically. Morning thermals first thing in the morning are usually going downhill, right? And then as the slope warms, they carry your scent uphill as that terrain warms up. Evening thermals start to pull it downhill as temperatures drop. Now, at mid-morning, they go unpredictable a lot of times, swirling because the temperature is volatile on those slopes. At terrain transitions like ridge tops, canyon edges, saddles, wind behavior becomes nearly impossible to predict without a wind indicator telling you in real time what the air is actually doing right there. The fix is to carry a wind checker and use it constantly, not just at your setup, but throughout your approach. Know the thermal cycle for specific terrain you're hunting. Never commit to a position without knowing where your scent is going, and always build your entire entry route around keeping that scent away from where elk are or where you expect them to be. If the wind is wrong, nothing else matters. Mistake number 2, hunting where everybody else is. Public land elk are not uniformly distributed, right? They're concentrated specifically in the places hunters aren't. And if you're hunting within easy reach of a trailhead, a road, or an established camping area, you're hunting real estate that elk already have abandoned. Mature bulls on public land are educable. They learn pressure patterns faster than most hunters realize. They learn which drainages get bumped first, which water sources have boot traffic, which saddles smell like humans, and they move deeper, rougher, maybe further from roads, to country that a lot of hunters aren't willing to reach. The fix is simple but physically demanding. Go further, right? 1 extra mile from the nearest trailhead separates you from the majority of hunting pressure. 2 miles puts you in country that most hunters never see. If you're comfortable with the access, elk probably are too. So you've got to get uncomfortable. The elk are already there waiting in the roughest, deepest, most difficult terrain in the unit. Mistake number 3, no real preseason scouting. Showing up in September hoping to find elk is not a plan. It's a wish, and wishes don't fill freezers. The hunters who consistently tag bulls have already been there on their maps all spring and summer, and on their feet the rest of the summer. They've identified high probability locations using satellite layers and topo maps, confirmed sign on the ground, noted escape terrain, found wallows, and built a mental model of how elk use that specific piece of country. They're not scouting in September. They're executing in September. The fix is to start your e-scouting in the spring. Learn to read topo maps for the features that elk actually use: north-facing slopes, drainages with springs, saddle crossings, benches with dark timber edges. Then get boots on the ground in July and August and confirm what the map suggested. The hunters who show up on opening day knowing exactly where they're going to be have an enormous advantage over everybody else that's just driving to a trailhead trying to find elk. The mountain is going to reward preparation, period. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the elk hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the elk hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post-Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. Mistake number 4, overcalling from a stationary position. Educated public land bulls have heard a lot of calling. What they haven't heard much of is realistic calling, sound that moves, changes, and behaves the way elk actually do. The mistake a lot of elk hunters make is parking in one spot and calling repeatedly from the same locations. The sound doesn't move. The message doesn't change. The volume doesn't vary. A mature bull that's been through 1 or 2 seasons on pressured public land processes that information very quickly and either hangs up or just disappears. The fix is to call minimally and move. After every sequence, every call, every rake, every real sound that you're trying to make, change your position. Even 10 to 20 yards makes the sound appear to shift, which is far more convincing than a stationary performance. So use natural variation in your calling as well. Mix cow calls with short non-committal bugles and periods of total silence. Let the quiet do some of the work. A bull that hears one compelling sound and then nothing is often much more curious and more committed than a bull that's heard 20 sounds from the same tree. Mistake number 5, bugling too aggressively. Bugles have their place, absolutely, but that place is not as a default strategy on public land, pointed at every bull in every piece of terrain and in every situation. Mature bulls have survived for a reason. An aggressive bugle or a bugle from a source they can't see in a location that doesn't feel right at a time they're not expecting competition, that is just information for them, and the information often tells them to leave. Guides consistently report watching bulls that were working towards a setup suddenly reverse direction when a hunter opened up with an aggressive challenge at the wrong moment. The fix is to earn the right to bugle aggressively. Get close first. Get inside the timber. Definitely get inside the 150-yard range. Closer to 100 is even better if you can do it with the wind. Then, if the situation calls for a competition-type bugle on a bull that's hung up, that could be also raking and maybe not closing the distance, a short, confident bugle can break him loose. But starting at 300 yards with a full volume bugle or a challenge is often the last sound you make before that bull goes silent and moves away. Mistake number 6 is the wrong setup position. A great bull in perfect range with hunter in the wrong position is a miss. A wrong position happens way more often than we like to realize as well, because a lot of elk hunters hunters set up where they feel comfortable, not where the elk will come from or that makes sense for the elk. The most common version is setting up in open terrain where the bull can see the calling source from a distance. A mature bull approaching the sound wants to see what's making it before he commits a lot of times. So if he's getting a visual from 200 yards and nothing about that seems to add up, no visible elk, movement that doesn't fit, an outline that shouldn't be there, he's going to hang up, circle, or just leave. So the fix is to set up with cover between you and the bull's approach. Make sure that you're using terrain, timber, and brush to break up your outline, always in front of the brush, and force him to close distance before he can visually confirm the source. Give him an uphill or side hill approach so that he feels like he has positional advantage. Make the setup feel natural for him and you be invisible inside of it. Mistake number 7 is showing up physically unprepared. Elk hunting in Western mountains is a physical event. It's an event that you need to train for. Miles, vertical, weight, altitude, heat, and the cumulative grind of a multi-day backcountry hunt is going to expose every gap in your preparation, and those gaps are going to cost you bulls. Here's the practical reality. A serious elk hunt might cover 6 to 15 miles a day, in some cases maybe even more. And that mountain terrain is rough with thousands of feet of elevation change and temperatures that swing from below freezing at dawn to mid-70s by afternoon. And if you shoot a bull, now you're packing out hundreds of pounds of meat in multiple loads over difficult ground. An unprepared body is going to make poor decisions, it's going to cut hunts short, and it can't reach the terrain where those pressured bulls are actually living. The fix here is to build your fitness around the specific demands of mountain hunting: legs, lungs, and load carrying capacity. So start months before season, not just a couple of weeks. Hike with weight, train elevation if you can. Your physical preparation is not separate from your hunting preparation. For elk in the mountains, it is your hunting preparation. Mistake number 8 is abandoning good country too soon. This one is quiet and it costs more bulls than almost anything else on this list. A hunter bumps elk on day 2, and by day 3, he's convinced the country doesn't hold any animals, so he moves. He takes his pressure somewhere new and burns that country too. The problem is that elk don't leave, they shift. Bumped elk move to the nastiest, most inaccessible corner of the same drainage and wait out the pressure. Hunters who leave are handing that drainage back to the elk and giving them exactly what they want: space to settle down and resume normal patterns. The fix here is that when you know elk are using a piece of country, you've got to be patient. Give bumped elk 24 to 48 hours without intrusion, and they typically settle back down. Hunt the edges. Make sure you're hunting downwind. Change your entry route, but don't leave good country because of one bad day. The elk are probably still there. You just need to change your approach, not the zip code. Mistake number 9: poor shot selection. A bad shot on an elk is not just a lost opportunity. It's potentially days of long tracking in rough country, a wounded animal that makes you feel terrible, and one of the hardest experiences in hunting. Shot selection is where the entire hunt either pays off cleanly or becomes a crisis. The most common errors are taking marginal angles, hoping for the best, right? Shooting at a moving animal, and misjudging effective field distances after climbing steep terrain in cold and physical stress. Hunters who shoot accurately at the range in calm conditions routinely overestimate how well they're going to perform after a hard mile at altitude with adrenaline running. The fix here is to know your real field distance limit and hold to it, not your best day range limit. Wait for a clean broadside shot or quartering away angle before you release. Let a bad angle walk. Elk are really durable animals, and a marginal hit on one is going to create a situation that's far more difficult and far less certain than waiting for a better shot. And mistake number 10: no adaptation when the pattern changes. The hunters who consistently kill bulls aren't the ones with the most elaborate preseason plan. They're the ones who recognize when that plan isn't working and how to change it. Elk respond to pressure, weather, temperature, and the progression of the rut. And they don't notify you when they shift a lot of times. The hunter who runs the same strategy on day 7 or 14 or 21 that he ran on day 1 in the same location at the same time with the same calling approach is a hunter who has stopped thinking and just started hoping. And that's when seasons slip away. The fix here is to build daily assessment into your system. So at the end of every day in the field, you ask what the elk showed you, where they were, where they moved, how they responded to calling, where sign was fresh, and let that information adjust your next day's plan. Change your entry, change your timing, change your call, or stop calling altogether. The elk are always telling you something. The hunters who listen and adapt are the ones who close. Now, 10 mistakes. Every one of them fixable. None of them requiring better elk or a different unit, just better decisions on your part as a hunter. Wind discipline, realistic preseason preparation, going further than the pressure, calling less from just one spot, making it dynamic, making it a real story, setting up where elk want to be and where they want to come into rather than just where you're most comfortable, showing up physically ready, staying patient in good country, making the right shot, and adjusting when the pattern tells you to. Most of those failures have nothing to do with how good the hunting is. They're self-inflicted. The good news is that self-inflicted problems have self-directed solutions. Fix the decisions and the outcomes are going to change. And that's the whole point of this system. And that's what 34 years in the mountains chasing elk has taught me. Now, if this episode made you realize you need a better elk plan this season, don't just watch another video and hope it all comes together. Build your plan right now. If you want to study my full system on your own, start with my elk hunting series of ebooks. If you want daily guidance, accountability, and a place to ask questions as season gets closer, join me on Team Backbone. If you want my eyes on your actual hunt plan, your maps, your access, terrain, pressure points, wind, thermals, and strategy, book an elk hunt plan audit, and I'll help you tighten it up before season. If the missing piece is your body, your legs, your lungs, or your ability to handle mountain miles and a heavy pack, check out my Backbone Unlimited training plans. And if nutrition is where you need more structure, getting leaner, fueling longer days, or building a better in-season food plan, check out my nutrition plans. The hunters who are ready in September are the ones who start tightening their plan right now. So go to backboneunlimited.com, choose the path that fits where you are right now, and I will help you get started. Thanks for being here. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I'll see you in the comments. You know I read and respond to everyone. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.